Ready?
All right, here we go.
All right. So, Daniel, I'll turn it to you to start us off.
All right, great. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Good evening. This is the August 10th Cultural Arts Commission meeting. My name is Daniel B. Smith. I am the chair, and it's a little past 7:30, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And I will begin things as usual by, or maybe the last time, I'm not sure, but by passing things over to Porter for a brief housekeeping message.
Yeah, and actually with nobody on Zoom, I don't need to do that.
Right.
So there you go. That's my last hurrah.
Sure. Do you need to introduce any of the new staff who are here? Did that happen last time? Obviously, I wasn't here.
We have been doing it, but yeah, and that's not on the agenda per se, but yes, just so everybody know. Well, and actually, we should, you know what? We need to go around the room because we have several real people that have not been real in a while. But I'll quickly, so this is Abby Bush Wilder, who is going to be taking over in my place with Parks and Recreation and Unmistakable Identity, and Stephen Mason, who is her cohort in basically the same position and part of a triad that's going to be managing all the culture, arts and culture programming for Unmistakable Identity. So, and Abby and I have been meeting regularly, and I've made myself available to her 24/7 to help her move along. And we actually met today for about an hour and a half and started going through all the different particulars related to arts and culture programming and that type of thing.
All right, great. Well, thank you for indulging me, Porter. We'll move on over to the roll call, see who is here. I will begin. Just say yes or raise your hand, wave at me. I will begin with Marlo Angel.
Present.
And then Denise Stone.
Present.
And then Mary Dupton.
Present.
And Jordan Martinez. Dina Amont.
Present.
Marciana Bequist. Thank you. Rebecca Schlitterling. Jill Stevie.
Present.
And Tim Metz.
Present.
Great, thank you. Following that, I will go ahead and move on down the agenda to the approval of minutes. I was not here last time, but it looks like we didn't have a quorum. So that means that we'll need to go ahead and approve the June minutes. So hopefully you've all had a chance to look over those, and I will call for a motion to approve those June minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the June meeting.
Great, thank you. And can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Denise. We don't need to do a roll call, so then we will just move right along to.
You do need to do a vote.
We do need a roll call?
We'll do a vote. I mean, you can do, since we're all here and there's nobody on Zoom, you can just do by show of hands.
All right, by show of hands, who approves the June minutes? All right.
Looks unanimous.
And then we will move along to the July minutes. I was not here for the July meeting, so I will be abstaining, but if I can get a motion to approve those July minutes.
Motion to approve.
Great, thank you, Marlo. And can I get a second?
I'll second.
Great, thank you. And I guess we will once again do a show of hands if you approve the July minutes. You may abstain, yeah. I will also abstain.
So 2 abstentions, three abstentions. Okay. Tim, Jill. Okay, abstain. Cool.
Thank you, Porter. Let me know if I'm going too fast for you.
You're good. Thank you.
Following the approval of the minutes, we will move to public comment. And I don't believe we have anybody, but if you want to double check or give me a thumbs up.
There's nobody on Zoom and obviously no guests here in the room. So I think we're good there. Whoops. So no public comment.
No public comment. All right, so then we will go right ahead to new business. With a mural review. Hopefully you've all had a chance to look at the proposal, which was sent out to us and some of the supporting documents. At this time, if anybody has any commentary or thoughts on the proposal we received, feel free to let us know.
Actually, I should share this. Hang on, let me share this. Okay. Just in case anybody joins us.
Are you waiting for it? Or?
Yeah, I just want to get it on screen.
Okay.
But yeah, you guys can go ahead and deliberate.
Yeah, Denise, go ahead.
I did. I looked at the application. I read it over twice, and I thought that it really does need to be amended. It's really skeletal, and it doesn't really touch upon the ideas that the application really requires an applicant to really look at. And after, you know, that issue, and also looking at the mural criteria, there are some ideas and issues that are not identified in the mural application that are mentioned in the criteria. And, you know, I think it's a problem. And I think that the sketch could be much more thorough. There are no dimensions of the wall included. There's also no mention of there are some stipulation as to how high the letters or just the formatting needs to be. And so she would have to apply for some approval for certain aspects of that project. And there's nothing mentioned in her application. I think that it could be a lot stronger. The idea is nice, but I think it needs to be much more strongly presented.
I would concur with Denise. I kind of have a procedural question before I make comments about the content. So this is, I think, the first time that since I've been on the commission that we've had a mural proposal where the artist hasn't been present either, you know, on Zoom or in person to talk about it. So what's the procedure for giving feedback to the artist? Maybe I should know that. I'm sorry, I don't. It's the first.
There's no set parameters on that. We did invite her. You know, I let her know that she could attend. She could attend by Zoom, and I haven't been in communication with her. Melody has been, and Melody's on vacation this week. But as far as I know, she was invited, and I don't know what reasoning she might have for not attending.
Okay.
I told her she doesn't have to attend.
Okay.
But I said it's a good idea to attend.
So she'll get the the minutes of the meeting as her feedback.
Well, we'll directly, speak with her depending on if you make a decision tonight, then we would let her know what that decision is.
So I thought, I totally love the idea and the sentiment behind it. Behind the message, I think I will totally support, but I agree with Denise that there were several parts of the proposal specifically that I would like to see more information. So specifically, the community input. Like she said, it was kind of not applicable, and I can't find that right at this moment here, but she kind of answered that it was not applicable, but I do think that part is important for her to get some feedback from the business owners on that intersection and the other property owners in that intersection. And then also I was really unclear about what we were looking at. You had it up there for a minute ago, Porter, about the art, the photographs that show previous work. So I was really unclear. There's one name in the proposal, and then there's a different name signed on some of the artwork in the photographs, and I wasn't really clear on whether that was the same person's work. I assume it is, but it had a different name on it. And then also that artwork was fairly old. I think it was 2010. And then those ones that you just passed, Porter, the photographs of the kitchen, I wasn't really clear on what we were looking at there. So what?
That's a great question. Yeah, I wasn't sure either what those were. I mean, I guess maybe those were walls that had been painted, and so paint applied to walls was the thought there, but I wasn't sure.
I wasn't clear on that. I mean, there was sort of a backsplash on the kitchen that might be handmade tiles or hand printed tiles, but it wasn't really clear what the artwork was and what the artist did in those photographs.
Sorry to interrupt. It looks like Jordan might be in the waiting room. Porter.
Oh.
Thank you. Oh, there she is. Great.
So I would have some questions about the artist's background and ability to execute a project of this scale based on the photographs that we saw that were submitted, and also because it was a little bit unclear to me what those photographs represented.
I mean, to me, you know, Denise used the word skeleton, and I feel like the proposal is kind of unique because I feel like often I've seen proposals where there's every box is checked, but then there's one thing that's missing, one component. Whereas with this one, I feel like every single part of it seems underdeveloped, almost like it's just like kind of a first stab or a rough outline. And I feel like for each section, there's a start, and then but a lot to be built on top of. But I do appreciate the fact that this individual seems like they have a real drive to do this, and the fact that they've secured like a sponsorship, I think, through a Sherwin-Williams store shows that they're the sort of person who might really drive things forward. I just feel like maybe with a little bit of collaboration and a little bit of consultation, it can really go to the next level.
The concern I would have is that from my reading of it, I didn't see where this individual had done any of the mural.
She did, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt you, but she said she had, I think, completed a mural 21 years ago, but it was in a building that had since been demolished. So she doesn't have any sketches or photographs.
I will say that I think the selection of the site, that retaining wall there at the intersection of Iowa and 23rd, is actually a pretty great location.
Yeah.
It's a public art. It's a very, right now it's just a big gray kind of unappealing looking wall.
Right.
So there is that. I feel like in each of the components of the proposal, there is something, a little something there, but just needs a lot of work. So, and I hope, I don't know if the individual who submitted the proposal will review this recording when it's on YouTube, or look over the minutes, or it would be great if we could pass along feedback to them. But I do think that they should take our feedback as not, us closing the book on their idea, but telling them, like, you have a seed here, you just need to water it a bit and develop it. And it might not happen, tomorrow or next week or this year, but especially by like bringing other people who are experts in different things and really developing it, I think there could be something there.
Yeah, bigger plan, just doesn't seem completely finished.
And there was the part that just pointed out that because it's a retaining wall, it doesn't involve any neighborhood involvement. It's not really a neighborhood in the way that we've seen with some of the other murals we've done, but there are, I mean, there's housing, you know, right down the street. There's a pretty big housing unit there. It's not like, you know, individual family homes with picket fences, but a lot of people do live in that neighborhood. So I think that is definitely something that I would push back on. I think that the neighborhood, the people who drive past that intersection every day, the people who work around there, the people who live around there, definitely should be involved.
I would say that I know other muralists that are sensitive to that. And yeah, according to our guidelines, she's correct. But in this case, that's such a prominent site. And yeah, literally hundreds, if not thousands of cars are passing that weekly and monthly. And so determining if that's the message that others would want to see and doing, you know, there's ways of doing that with even a QR code at this point where an artist could set up a sign out there saying, I want to do a mural, I want people's feedback. So it's a big job though. Community engagement is a big task and not every artist is set up that way, but a lot of muralists do apply that sort of effort. So that would be a good way to go to get more buy-in from the community and the neighborhoods.
I'll also add, I really love the sort of nostalgic feel of it. And I mean, it's just such a wholesome message that I would like to see the artist try to, you know, shore up the proposal quite a bit more. I agree. It seems like it's a first draft maybe and just needs a little bit more work on it, but I just love the idea of it, and I hope they continue and make it happen.
And I'd like to, and that's really good. Those are good points. I'd like to add the scale of it. Be kind all the time. Will show up, I think, but we don't really know what she has in mind just in terms of the scale. We don't have a photograph or how, you know, to what extent these letters, how they're going to fit on the wall. I mean, in terms of the dimensions at all. And then there's more, there are more words after, and those are really quite small. And the likelihood that those words are going to be read easily is questionable because of, you know, the lines are very thin and the color is, you know, I think the impact may not be what she is hoping for and what needs to happen if people are able to read it well, especially when you're going through that intersection, because, you know, that's a highly trafficked area at various times of the day, and people, you know, I mean, the speed is not that slow. So maybe people who are waiting for a red light to turn to green will be able to read it, but others not as we drive by.
I agree with all of that. And reading the application, it kind of opened my mind to question when Porter leaves, if we have an inexperienced artist, an application like this one, who will vet the materials and the mural procedures? As a volunteer commissioner who's here once a month, I don't feel like I have the knowledge base to assist with that. Marketing is a totally different animal than mural and art and, you know, how to preserve the buildings and all that structure. What happens now? And I know that you do a lot of work, Porter, with artists when they call and they're saying, I want to do a mural, and you speak to them about the application. Where will this land in the future?
You know, let me echo that and say I am concerned about your departure, Porter. You know, that's it. Even though I know that you're going to have, I'm really concerned about Porter not doing this community.
Thank you. I would say too that Porter might do too much sometimes. And I think that we need to follow procedure. What I'm hearing generally is that this is not up to the par that we think it should be for this context, which I would concur that I think that's a good assessment. With that, I would say that you should probably vote on it. For now, with the caveat you can add that, you know, if they want to go back and figure out ways of improving their proposal, they can do that. But to stick with, you know, so we don't want to set up a situation, you know, I use the analogy of hiring any firm that the city hires to do any kind of construction, even sidewalk installation. You have to prove to the city that you're capable of doing that work and doing it well enough that it's not going to cost us money 2 years down the road because it fails. We have pretty, you know, serious contracts with this type of thing. And that's the biggest thing, is the contract we have really holds accountability, even for somebody that's not being hired by the city to do something like this, because that is city property. So we have to protect that property. So I think all of this is valid. And, but yeah, it has to go through this process before we'd even get to a point where it would be considered realistically. And it's still, even if you were all to approve this at some point, still has to have final approval by the city commission. So it's practical, professional, but it's also the integrity of the content of the work in such a highly public situation. And that's something the city commission be, you know, is that the appropriate phrasing, or does that represent Lawrence well enough? And I say this, let me be clear, with absolutely the utmost respect to this artist, who I know is very well intended and really trying to do a good thing. I totally respect that. If this was a private wall somewhere, that may be a different conversation, but for a public setting, we have to, you know, scrutinize it very carefully.
I feel like maybe we need to recruit somebody that has, like, I don't have mural experience. And so without your expertise at the table, I don't know if you all have that. I don't possess that knowledge of materials and how to protect buildings. And my fear is, what if a great application comes through that looks gorgeous and it looks wonderful and professionally done, and we say yes, and then it goes awry? Like, are we the last? If the city commission doesn't know mural and materials, where does the buck?
Well, keep the contract is very clear. And if for some reason something goes wrong, the city has many options, including just painting over it, if that, you know, if that was the end result. So the contract is really the safety net. And happily, I think we built a really strong contract so that there are checks and balances in that sense. And truthfully, I add to the mix, I wanted you all to decide on this first. Because of all the text, this probably has to go through the sign code process.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And so that's a whole nother layer of bureaucracy that we'd have to review. I've already sent this to code administration just for their awareness that we're working on this. So, and then I also, frankly, we don't automatically have permission to put this on city property. So we have to explore that as well, because I don't know if for some reason they may be planning to tear that wall down or something. So we need to check. So there's just, you know, again, working in the public realm means there's a lot of layers that we have to consider. So I think this is a good assessment. I think hopefully she watches this video and gets some insights from that. I'll convey some of this, you know, to her. But I think this is a good conversation.
I have a few thoughts on a couple different levels. First of all, just in the interest of the possibility that this artist might watch this and review this, I have to say I'm a little bit torn, because I agree with what you said about the message as far as it being this like whole, like just genuine, sort of nostalgic, like straightforward aspirational message. And there's something really like kind of rare about that you don't see too often. But at the same time, I do worry that sentiment, first of all, isn't necessarily something which is overly specific to our community. It could be just, you can see it on a wall anywhere. It doesn't really necessarily reflect our community specifically. And also just what the purpose of having such a blanket, sort of ambiguously positive sentiment is. And I do think there's definitely a lot to explore as far as what the best message on such a prominent wall like that, what message is most going to resonate and mean the most to this community. So that's on like the artistic, or the sort of like artistic intent side of it. And then second, as far as the whole procedural part of it, and the fact that Porter's moving on, obviously I feel like our new overlords are going to, Porter, I'm sure at one point you started out and you didn't know everything about murals that you know now, and you've learned some of those things. And so while I do definitely appreciate Porter's expertise, I think that, that there is that aspect to it. And I also feel like just listening to people around this table talk about this mural, we were able to identify amongst ourselves a lot of issues that this mural had. And so I could definitely see it's a concern. Like, what if we accidentally approved a mural that then went, didn't end up working out well? But I think that, tonight we showed that if Porter hadn't been in this room, I don't think we would have approved this mural, because it does have, room to be developed. So I think that I have a decent amount of confidence in our ability to learn some of those things, even if we don't know the specifics about, I don't know about the sign code. It looks like Denise might have actually seen that problem coming.
Yeah, the criteria for the mural specifies that in particular.
So I do have.
Okay, so do we just make a motion to deny permission?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do would be to make a motion to deny permission based on the inherent flaws that we see, but then hopefully pass on a really positive message to the creator that they should not give up and maybe explore some other options, collaboration, things like that. So if somebody wants to make a motion to that effect, by all means.
I move that we deny this application, but of course, provide as much positive information that we can based on our conversation. Second. Can I add something? I can wait until.
If it's not part of the motion, but you could.
Okay, I'll wait until the motion
Okay.
is complete.
So we have a first and second, and I'll let you call the vote.
All right, Marlo.
I agree to deny.
All right, Denise.
I agree.
Mary.
I agree.
Jordan. Oh,
I agree.
She says thumbs up.
thank you, Jordan. Dina.
I agree.
Marciana.
I agree.
Rebecca. Jill.
I agree.
And Tim. I agree. All right, and I also agree.
Okay.
And then Denise, you had
Yeah, I'm curious. We've had such great applications this year. Thinking about Owens, and there was another one. Oh, I know the Lawrence. Let's see, Van Gogh. Their
The
presentations.
apartment buildings downtown.
Yeah, their presentations.
Stephen
were so
Johnson's.
amazing. Is it possible to give the candidate applicant some examples of what other people have submitted as a way to guide?
It's a good idea.
Because I think that would help me as an applicant if I saw what kind of technology was used and the kind of information such as the scale of the project and how it might look on the wall. So we have this sketch, but we don't really know how that might look. But it really requires having some technology background to be able to impose a sketch onto a wall, because that would really bring it, really give it some dimension.
Yeah, I think this is always a dilemma when an artist maybe doesn't have the experience required at this stage.
Right.
And then I feel guilty because I don't have the time, nor is it really my responsibility to coach and mentor,
Right.
although I'd love to. But yeah, so I hope this isn't painful in a way. And to Marlo's point, there are a few people in town that she could perhaps get in touch with. And I don't know if the Art Center could help in any way. Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot,
No,
but there's resources here that, and maybe I can convey that, and even I could talk later or something, that maybe she can get in touch with somebody. And
We'll just give her the names of some of the other muralists.
Right.
well, yeah, that's true. I mean, they all have websites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stephen Johnson.
Well, and sorry. I would just like to remind everybody, I'm looking at February's agenda, and, the mural proposal from Van Gogh is up. And I'm sure if you looked backwards month to month, you'd find plenty of mural proposals that are available for the public. So she could view those if she needed samples too.
Good idea. I can actually send her the agenda memos, and yeah, there's quite a resource there if somebody wants to take the
That's
time. Okay, that's great. And I think that's good insight, very sensitive and complete.
all right, great. So in the interest of time, unless anybody has anything else they'd like to add, we can move on to old business.
Well, actually, I do have something to add,
Go ahead.
but it has nothing to do with the topic that we just discussed. Can we beg you to stay? Committee, our commission, and you know, don't work on anything else except your full-day job, but you stay with us. Stick with us, Porter.
I'll consider that. If you
Okay.
come up with a proposal,
I think
Stick with the cool kids.
Yes.
I think begging Porter would fall under the miscellany category.
yeah, that may be later on the agenda.
Yeah.
Well, who's gonna join me with this begging?
I have on previous occasions. Quite vocal.
The first item on old business is an update on unmistakable identity, and I believe Abby, you will be introducing that.
I put her just so she could talk a little bit about her experience and then actually since Stephen's here too. So the good news is I think they've set up a good team effort. So Abby will be the point person, but Stephen will also be available and he brings a wealth of knowledge from his experience working in parks and recreation. Also, he has background in arts and culture in a different way, in a unique way. So maybe both of you can talk a little bit about your position on this and what you're foreseeing at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I moved here from Virginia, where I spent most of my career in nonprofit work, including event planning, from sort of the opposite side of the spectrum, including working with a lot of artists who are donating work to support nonprofit work, and it just developed a deep love of working with artists. It is some of the most gratifying work out there. And when I heard about Lawrence Cultural Arts Commission, it immediately struck me as inspiring, meaningful work. But I do come at this humbly and from a learning perspective. I have just loved getting the chance to talk with Porter, and he has made himself very available to me to sort of mentor me through this transition. And I want to learn who each and every one of you is and learn about your perspectives. And I get why you love Lawrence. Moving here from halfway across the country, it was very apparent to me that this is a place that's very special. And I want to preserve that, and I want to work to further that. And I consider this experience very exciting. But yeah, I ask for grace in this transition as I learn how to serve this group well.
Great, thank you, Abby.
I'm Stephen Mason. A few of you met me last month on Zoom. Happy to be here in person this month. I
You have a good voice, but pull the mic.
Yeah. Sure.
Thank you.
Need a mic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. He has a good theatrical.
You gotta gather attention sometimes. So for the past just short of 8 years, I've been at the East Lawrence Recreation Center, which was a great opportunity. It's first off, fantastic center, but it also gave me the flexibility to take on some additional side projects and various things like that. So I have gotten to be out in the community, doing a little bit more of that community engagement, some of the special projects, things along the way. I think what we might be alluding to more is, I didn't mention last week, I have much more of a musical background than a fine arts background. So lots of music performance, various bands growing up, family band, high school, bluegrass bands, lots of fun things like that. Audio experience, running sound, doing recordings. And so that's more the side that I'm familiar with. Looking forward to getting a little bit more into the sculptural side. I think the downtown program is something that's amazing and that I have enjoyed throughout my life, growing up here in town, and really looking forward to what connections we can make with this commission to other entities to help really support them and to kind of bolster each other. And I think that's kind of my goal and wheelhouse so far, is trying to make those connections and trying to get people to help each other out, help everybody raise what makes this such a great town.
Great, thank you for sharing. Does anybody want to have any questions or want to compliment them, or I don't know what you want to do.
I'm
I
glad you're
think-
here.
You both sound like very interesting, very lovely people. I'm still nervous about your arts experience or lack thereof.
Absolutely. And I think that, a few of these things, like when we mentioned the murals, surfaces, things like that, those are things that we will either personally or, through the networks that we have, both in Parks and Rec and municipal services and throughout the city, and our unmistakable partners, such as the Art Center. I never answer a question that I don't know. So I'm more than happy to acknowledge where those shortcomings are and find the people that can help us fill those.
Do either of you have any experience in grants?
My grant experience is more tertiary, helping out with administering grants that we received during my time at the Housing Authority, but then also kind of being additional eyes on those. As a lead, no, not currently. I think that's an area that we are looking
Set up grants or reviewed grants?
Yes. Review. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I would echo that. I have review of grants experience. I always was helping with grants with a team of others. I've never single-handedly taken a grant and not had other eyes looking on it. I come from the nonprofit world, so my experience with grants is very much on the other side, like applying for that.
So you've written grants?
Yes, written applications for grants, but not written a grant that others would be applying for.
And in all fairness, I've only written 2 grants for this in my tenure. The NEA grant recently and the other, and so it's not, I think this is a good starting point. One of the things on the agenda is to talk about a retreat, to regroup and to determine, how this board wants to move forward. So no disrespect, but I think this is a question of what does this board want to do? How does this board see it changing? Let's keep in mind, this is an advisory board to the city commission.
Right. The reason I asked for it was because a couple of the big things that this commission does is administer the community grants when there's money available, and also working with the TGT grants.
Right.
So, and with the NEA grants as well, it seems to me that grants
And let me
are
clarify.
becoming a.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, but let me clarify too. One, we're going to do the NEA grant. So Melody and I have been so immersed in that, and as you know, it's a very complex situation. We're going to see that through.
Okay.
So I won't be here, but I'll still be working for you. Okay. And then TGT, I have all the groundwork for that, and I just gave Abby a beautiful little thumb drive that includes all the files she needs to go back, so she doesn't have to invent new wheels. That we have the pretty good document, the Excel sheet that was created by our Air Force. He was a remarkable guy with all the different formulas in it that I don't understand, but that gives us a good starting point to have conversations. So yeah, I just want to reassure you that I'm not leaving anybody in the lurch. All those systems are already in place, and we, the TGT grant, we've done it for 5 years, so we have that information gained. I just remind everybody, I'm not dying. I'm still going to be here in City Hall. I promise to be available, so it's not like I'm leaving forever or something. So, I just want to reassure people, because I appreciate the concern, but it'll be okay, and I think it's an opportunity for you all to focus more on like policy efforts, all those type of things, and also the financial side of things as we move into this. So just want to reassure, your questions are fair and good, but I want to be reassuring too that all things happen.
Well, I have to say, I'm appreciative to have you guys both here. You bring a lot of experience with Lawrence. You've been here forever. I know your parents, good all-around person. And sometimes, as we know, the trick to navigating Lawrence is knowing Lawrence. And so I appreciate that. And I appreciate having new blood. Would we love to have somebody with tons of experience that checks all these boxes? Who wouldn't? But you know what? New blood, solid blood, we're going to be good. We'll be fine. We'll figure it out.
I would like to add just, I mean, as Porter acknowledged that he's not actually disappearing from the face of the earth. And, you know, we speak to it pretty frequently in our public information officers meetings, and I'm not hesitant about bothering him. And I did also want to just point out, you know, you had talked a little bit about how your background is mostly music, and that's not really the focus of this group, but I really think that we've been trying to move away from the idea that what we focus on is sculpture, painting, murals, and trying to embrace more performance, and music and things like that as being important to the community. So I feel like you were downplaying the musical background a little bit, but I think that is relevant. I just wanted to express that.
And I would just like to echo too, I am a painter by trade also, and I have some mural experience as an artist, which I completely understand is not the same thing as looking out for the city. But it may come in handy surely. And I come to this ready to research and ready to tap shoulders, looking at you. And I'm not afraid to learn new things. And I'm not afraid to teach myself new things and to research the right way of doing things. And I think coming to Lawrence fresh is that I get to learn it your way. I get to learn how Lawrence works. And I think you all will do a fantastic job of teaching me the right way of doing this. And I look forward to that opportunity.
Very good.
Great. Well, I appreciate everyone's the dialogue that we had. Obviously, I feel like there's more to talk about, but maybe we'll get back to that with the retreat. But before that, I would suggest we move on to the second part of our old business, which it looks like Porter already has teed up, which is an update on the NEA Arts Grant process. So
happy to bring you up to speed. So as you know, we have the website. Thank you all for your nice compliments. The application timeline is here in July. Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm forgetting that we're also talking to our YouTube audience. Okay. So the timeline is here. Obviously, we passed these two deadlines, and July 18th is the actual application period, which goes through August 22nd. And then you have all the other information program guidelines. We've been answering a ton of questions. I'm not sure Melody's been out, so I don't know exactly how many people have actually applied yet. I know we have a few applications so far. So that is underway. And then if I go back to our agenda, oops. Here we go. So on this agenda, we have this. So one thing we're very cognizant of is the National Endowment for the Arts Grant. And there's a few of you at this table who work for organizations that might be interested in applying for this grant. And I think that's fine. And we've done other things like that, so we can do that. But with the interest of complete fairness to everybody, we want to make sure that we're very transparent in who should or shouldn't be involved in this process. So two things. One is that we need to determine who the review panel will be. And we will have the review panel, click on this, fill out this form, which is we came up with this conflict of interest disclosure form. So if anybody volunteers to be on the committee, we will ask you to fill out this form just to make sure, and I would say lean on the side of, is this a conflict? So we can have that conversation, because I want everybody to trust that this was a fair process. So this will be there. So I'd like you guys tonight to determine whether or not, or who will be on that panel. And I would say 3 to 5 people is probably a good number to be able to review these applications and that type of thing. And then I'm going to ask you all to go, not tonight with me, but we have a doodle poll on the agenda. You can go and fill out the doodle poll. We are a little under the gun trying to get this done within a certain time frame so we can move forward and get these grants administered. I know what it is. Sorry. We want to get the grants administered ideally by the end of the year, if possible. It's not hard and fast, but we're hoping to get that because we had to budget money unexpectedly to cover these grants until we can get reimbursed, which in a city government situation is a very challenging thing to do. but we did it. So, and that money will roll over if needed. So we're not going to lose that money, but I just want to be clear, we're trying to abide by our own finance office. So that's what's happening. So my first request is to determine who on this board would want to serve on that panel.
What is the time commitment?
That's a really good question. I think, we're only probably going to get somewhere between 15 and 20 applications. We will certainly vet those as best we can. We can do some of the initial review independently, so you guys can do that. We'll set it up online and then come to a meeting. I would imagine a meeting of about 90 minutes to 2 hours, depending. The good news is too, this isn't a program grant, so we're not debating programs or something. This is really just vetting. Did they cover all the bases? Is this applicable? Are they eligible? That type of stuff. And a lot of that will be our responsibility. So I would say maybe a 2-hour meeting, so not too big of a deal. The trick is to get between these dates, August 30th and September 9th.
I'd be willing to help, but I have a conflict of interest.
Right,
Same.
right. So yeah, I think I would say wise not to dive in. All right, so Tim. And I knew that would be a challenge.
Am I incorrect remembering there's a point in this process where we considered tapping individuals outside of the Cultural Arts Commission to potentially serve on that board? I feel like there was a
Why would you do?
conversation where we had talked about maybe trying to find some folks who aren't currently sitting at this table, but maybe who represent the community in a wider sense.
I don't know that we discussed it in depth, but that's certainly a viable option. Yeah, if you wanted to do
I
that.
guess as your timeline, then they work against, we're going to have to be pretty nimble.
Right.
Right.
That's been our focus, is trying to do this efficiently.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea. I'm not so sure. Unless you have people in mind, I don't. But I don't know. Would you say it's between August and September 9th?
August 30th and September 9th, ideally, is when we get this done.
Well, I would certainly be interested in reaching out to some people, even though it is,
It's not that hard. Just do it.
I'm also willing to do it.
Okay.
I'll say that.
I can do it, but I'll be gone, let's see, the beginning of September, which would interrupt my work. But since it's going to be August 8th, not August 8th, what's the time?
No, it's August 30th through that first full week of
That's
September.
probably going to be a problem.
So if you have a conflict,
Yeah, that's not going to work for me.
And we may not get to a number that we like here, so we may have to reach out. I don't know.
And how many do you need?
I would say 3 minimum and 5 would be a good target. Yeah.
I just don't know if I'm qualified. I don't really know what I'm, doing yet. What does it entail?
So this is a unique grant. So this is a National Endowment for the Arts grant through the American Recovery Plan Act, specifically for arts and culture nonprofit organizations who, this is recovery money. So again, they're not applying to do a program or something. This is simply saying, like the Art Center would be an example of, between this period of time, we had this much personnel costs, this much cost related, and we were trying to recover those costs. So it's a very sort of rudimentary financial application, if you will. It's really not artistic, although that's an aspect of it. But the very fact that I think all of these have to be arts and culture nonprofits kind of lends itself to, okay, obviously they have some level of qualification at that level. So,
Yeah, I'll do it.
okay, great. Daniel, if you want to reach out and get a third party, so to speak, that might, feel qualified,
Sure, yeah.
and add that to the mix, I think it's a great idea.
I'd be happy to reach out to people who I feel like are involved in the arts community, who I don't think would have conflicts of interest. And I think, the rest of you, if you know people who you think would be great, who you feel like are really representative of our community, I feel like we could also maybe contact some Cultural Arts Commission alumni, some old faces.
Oh, that's a good point.
And see if they would want to get involved, just so we can reach that 3 to 5 number. And so far it sounds like 3 of us are interested. If anybody else is interested later, you think about it, whatever, I'm sure you can reach out, put your hand in the ring, but no pressure. Is there anything else you want to address?
I'm going to put that on your shoulders, that if you reach out to somebody and they want to do it, have them contact me and Melody to let us know that. And then we can set up the actual panel, and then we can assign the Doodle Poll to people and make sure we know a date that works. Because that'll be the other challenge, frankly, is can we find a date where everybody can participate? We could do it virtually potentially, so that might make it a little easier for people, but this is great. This is what I needed. So thank you very much. And I hope this works for everybody, that we're really trying to do this as consciously as we can. Melody's done a terrific job working through this. She's actually now part of a national cohort of about 30 people who are all pulling their hair out trying to figure out how to do this. So we're in good company. So that's great.
Great. So we can move on to committee updates as needed. Porter, do you have any updates? Anything you want to?
Community updates?
Committee updates.
Committee updates. No, I'm not aware of anything currently that any committees, and that'll be another thing for the retreat, is to revisit committees and talk about, what should that look like? Obviously, public art is still a factor. And then there's also, as we move back into the Phoenix Awards, because we're talking about that too, which would be next year, thinking about that grant committee and how you want to administer the Phoenix Awards next year and do some sort of program. I'm imagining after COVID, there might be a good group of nominations of people that have been through, an extra challenging time in the arts and culture world. Sitting around this table, isn't it?
Great.
About the community art grants, is there any update about that?
Oh, sorry. Yes, thank you. So that is a timing challenge. We're trying to figure that out. So one thing, and we were talking about this as well today. So I talked to the finance office. The great news is that TGT is recovered and recovering. It continues to do very well. So the money's there now. The challenge we face, because I talked to the finance director about this, is that if we try to administer it now, we would really have to get shovel-ready projects, if that makes sense. You guys might have a better sense. Is there a dearth of people out there?
Yes.
No, a large group of people.
Yes.
Shovel-ready projects.
Keep asking me about it. She's saying, when is it going to?
So they could win a grant and go.
Yep.
That's what I'm talking about, because it would have to be implemented before the end of the year.
Oh, like the program?
The money has to be spent and the program would have to be implemented before the end of the year. That's the pickle. I'm glad to see you guys react, because I had the same, like, really?
The fiscal year, yeah. So like by.
Well, not our fiscal year.
Gotcha.
So here's the good news. And I know I'm going to be very upfront with especially you guys, because I know I don't have the best credibility after a pandemic, but I did talk to the finance director. He does think that the $25,000 is actually in the TGT fund, that it could be rolled over so that you could have $50,000 next year. And I'm working with Abby to say, why don't we do the community arts grants as fast as possible, or even perhaps start them this year for next year. And then people can hit the ground running in January, but have the entire year to implement their program.
So they could, in theory, apply in January, do a program in the spring.
Right. Or in the fall.
Right.
It just has to be done within the calendar year from the city's perspective.
I would love that. I just feel like we miss out on those cycles. A lot of us are on that fiscal year,
right,
school year type cycle. And so if we can get something out this year and then do a bonus one next year, or just do one big open.
I'm thinking one, but then be able to administer more grants because you have double your $25,000.
So Porter, will there be TGT grants and community arts grants?
Yes. So the TGT grant program for 2023 will be administered this fall. That's what Denise is going to serve on for that. The mayor is appointing 2 new TGT grant advisory members. And so that selection process will occur this fall, but that's for next year. And I believe if the budget passes, let me put that caveat on it. It hasn't passed yet, but that it's $150,000, not $120,000.
Nice.
So it's a little bit of an increase. I think, let me double check that. But
That used to be 200. So but it's good that we're getting back.
Yeah.
no, it was not
Are we
200.
200?
I think so.
No, it was 150.
It was 150.
It started at 150 and then it dropped to 120.
Yeah.
I'm just hopeful.
So yeah, and so that requires a budget adjustment, but that could be done in the first quarter of next year. And then you would have $50,000. You could do 2 grant cycles, but I would say because of that time, that 1-year time challenge, you might as well just do it in all one fell swoop. So Abby and I can work in that direction, but yeah, so it's still looking good. It's just a little delayed from the financial side. Thanks for asking.
Just a couple of years.
Yeah, yeah, and let's not have monkeypox pandemics.
I had a lot of meetings with monkeypox today. Is there any other discussion? If not, we can move on to the miscellany category where we all beg Porter, but then also where we will be discussing the fall retreat dates. Anything else? No?
I'd dive into the fall retreat dates.
All right, let's do it.
Where is it going to take place?
You know, that's a really good question because
It depends if I've retired or not by then. It kind of depends on when you want to do it. I'm sure we can make it happen there.
Well, even if you're retired, you're going to still be on this committee.
Oh, yeah. But
I don't know.
it depends on when you want to do it. We have a busy fall.
so Theater Lawrence is one possibility.
Art Center, depending on the date, we have that satellite space on 10th and Mass.
Does that have a meeting space?
Yeah, it's got a nice rehearsal / space that we've used for meetings,
Okay.
depending on classes.
Porter, do you have a list of dates that work from
I honestly don't. This was kind of, wanted to see where you guys are thinking. And we don't, the other thing is we could do a doodle. If you can select sort of a time frame, we could do a doodle poll if that's easier, not to lock everybody in right now.
So you're looking at a weekend date?
What do you guys think? We talked about this sort of vaguely. Sorry, I'm not fully prepared to dive into this, but I would think, yeah, weekend probably makes the most sense. We often do Sundays, but I think Saturday, I leave that up to you guys to decide which is better, Saturdays or Sundays.
Sunday better for me in the fall because my kid does cross country. So Saturdays are kind of busy.
And typically we've been
I'm
doing.
okay with Sunday. That works better with my teaching schedule.
Okay, thanks. Typically we've done 1 to 4, so 3 hours. Okay, so Sunday's better. 1 to 4, we're getting closer.
Is there anybody for who that immediately starts off alarm bells? Like that's not gonna, that wouldn't work for
I think it just depends on the day.
which one?
Fancy go.
Probably not August. I would say probably wise to look at later in September or anytime in October, except maybe not Halloween because you'll be getting ready for trick or treating.
October is really good for me, just as a concept. September can be kind of dicey.
Okay.
Could we do early October?
Like October 2nd.
Yeah.
The theater would not be available October 2nd because we will be doing a matinee of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
I want to go to that.
So we go to the show and then we have.
You could do that instead.
And when is that show? When is that over?
That closes the 2nd. So if you wanted to do the 9th,
We have the art center space.
I'll double check just on availability because sometimes they have classes.
We'll
and
find,
then-
the 9th would,
we'll find a space.
the 9th would be possible if you wanted to do it then.
I'm good with either of those dates.
Yes, same. I think either works for me.
I can't do the 9th.
Can't.
Not the night.
Okay.
Does anybody have a problem with October 2nd? Assuming we're not doing it in the middle of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. So potentially over at the art center.
Yeah, I just have to double check. I have the calendar.
You could make a guest appearance. Feathers, sequins. We are going to do a drag night on October the 1st.
I always think of that scene in the movie where he's sitting on the bus with the
Yes.
just glorious.
We're going to do that. We're building a bus.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
16 feet of bus.
Wow. Wow.
It's ambitious.
That's expensive. That's a shovel-ready project.
That's right. You could get an art grant for that.
There you go.
October
Okay.
2nd, it is.
Well, I'm not clear. October 2nd or October 9th?
October 2nd seems like, I know Marciani said that October 9th doesn't work for you. So October 2nd seems like the preferred date.
Does that work? Everybody's, we have.
I don't know. Since we're doing Priscilla, I might have to be there. Try to see.
Then we're the bus.
Yeah,
It's the last show.
it's the last show.
What about the 16th?
I could get there for part of it.
Any of those days in October.
When is the
works for
matinee
me,
over?
so.
Probably. 34.
Well, actually,
Solid
before we
time.
belabor too much, would the 16th work? Maybe that's the easy
I
one.
can't do this.
So we're missing somebody on each of those three options, which may,
You've thrown out 1 to 4 as being a time frame. What if we
Yeah.
just shifted on the 2nd, but shifted it earlier?
that's true. You're not locked in. Sorry, that's just the time we've done. But yeah, that's not locked in. You could start at 3 a.m. if you want.
Let's do it. What time does the show start? 'Cause I know you always come out.
The show starts at 2:30.
Okay.
We still couldn't do it in the morning at Theater Lawrence because we've got a church in there, the Valley Church.
Art Center might be open at that time.
We could do it in the morning.
Don't you have a church?
Not the satellite space,
Oh, okay.
but I don't know. There's something else on there.
Why don't you check? Why don't you check your?
Yes.
But
Well, let's see. 1 to 4 is 3 hours.
I don't have the calendar on my phone.
I know that's why I brought this instead of just mine.
Would 10 to 1 on the 2nd work?
Can do that.
That's good.
All right, 10 to 1,
Why-
October 2nd. And we know we may lose 1 or 2 people with life experiences, but we'll see what happens. But we get it on our calendar now. So put that on your calendar, 10 to 1,
But that's-
October.
That's if Marlo can.
We could find
We
another
don't know
place,
for sure
too.
the location, but I'm
Yeah.
sure we can find another space. Parks and Rec obviously has options. On a Sunday, you could even meet here if you needed to. So we can figure out. And we don't have to do this. Depending on how COVID goes and everything else, we can consider a Zoom option, but we don't necessarily have to broadcast. What we've done for meetings like this that are not voting meetings is record them and then just put them up later. So we can figure that out as well. So we'll figure out the space, but let's go ahead and say October 2nd, 10 to 1 Central Time in Lawrence, Kansas.
Sounds good.
Cool. That's great. Thanks.
So unless anybody else has comments about the scheduling for the retreat, miscellany section, so is there any miscellany that folks would like to throw out? Any updates on things or?
In the spirit of begging Porter to stay, we did have a little recognition that I wanted to extend. This is on behalf of all of the commissioners. So thank you for your years of service to the arts. It was such a huge thing for the city to have an arts and culture director. And so it was a real gift to have your vision and expertise for so many years. So we value it and appreciate you.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, I will miss it. I don't leave. I leave with a heavy heart in a sense too, but life is about changes too. So thank you. Appreciate it. Should I?
Oh, sure.
Sure.
Very cool. Where'd this come from?
Phoenix Gallery.
Ah, very nice. Wow.
So you can buy art, experience art, go to eat, have the culinary arts, whatever experience.
Oh my gosh,
you'd like
this
to
is really
celebrate.
sweet. Thank you so much. Wow. Thank you. A nice gift card from downtown Lawrence. I'm sure they're appreciative as well. And thank you, Porter, for all you've done for the arts in Lawrence. We appreciate you, your LCAC family.
All right, if there's no other miscellany, we can go ahead and move to adjournment. It is currently 8:39, so not too late. We've gone later. So before we do adjourn, unless anybody has anything else I'd like to say, I would personally, as the chair, just like to thank all of you for volunteering your time, schlepping down here. I'd like to thank our new friends Abby and Stephen for being here and talking about some of their life experience. I'd like to, of course, thank Porter, although we've done a lot of that already. I'd also like to thank Marlo for filling in for me last time. I couldn't be here. And the tech
Kurt.
Yeah.
Hey, Kurt.
The unsung hero.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that in mind, I would request a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, thank you, Jill. Do we have a second?
Wait, second.
Denise seconds. We don't need a roll call for that one.
No, just I think it indicate, unless somebody's really opposed, all opposed, raise your hand. There you go. Nobody indicated. Jordan, thank you. And sorry, you're the sole person on screen, so I hope we didn't ignore you in an obvious fashion.
No, and I'm hoping to get to the in-person meeting next month. Today was the first day of classes for Topeka Public Schools, so I was just a little, yeah, I'm so drained. Sorry, but I'll be there in person next month. So looking forward to meeting everybody in person.
Yeah, have fun.
These next dates.